So I may have overspent on this manga, just a little tiny bit. And I'm already behind on my reading, so I better buckle down and get through all of this. The first thing I got was Moon Knight, new show's out, must read. It's also by Jeff Lemire. I absolutely love Jeff Lemire's work, so I'm very much looking forward to this. I'm hoping that he's as violent as he was in Bendis' run and stuff before that, because I quite like the very angry, very mature version of Moon Knight. Not very much into the show's version, but this is actually what the show's based on, so fingers crossed it's good. Then in preparation for Doctor Strange, I have American Chavez. She will be appearing in Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness for the first time. I'm not really familiar with the character, but this is the latest graphic novel that has released for her. I'm not too sure if this is the one with the art distribution, because one of the artists was drawing her too sexy and apparently got a lot of backlash for that. So I'm hoping it's that artist, because his stuff actually looks phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, it's comics, they sexualise everyone. You know, all the guys have six packs, all the girls have like desirable bodies and stuff like that. It's you know, it's what sells. Why change it? It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, looking forward to reading this. Then next up is one of my favourite superheroes, Superman. I absolutely hated Bendis' run. This is a new jumping on point for Superman comics. Clark is the main title, and his son, John, has the actual Superman title, so I'm interested to see where that goes. I'm looking forward to reading this because it's War World, and I do like Mongol storylines. And then we have Spider-Man Beyond, which features not one, but two Spider-Men. Now, when I was growing up, I grew up with Ben Reilly as Spider-Man, so he is actually my favourite Spider-Man. So to have him back in the suit and being the main protagonist of the story, it's going to be epic. Following on from that, we have Daredevil. Now, the only person I could have as Daredevil's side Matt would be Elektra, so her taking up the mantle was just cool. It was really, really awesome, and I love her design. It looks epic. And Chip Starkey's run has been knocking it out of the park right from the beginning, so I think this is the last volume, but I'm going to sit down, read it all, and probably love it. Shang-Chi. Now this is a volume 2, although it's kind of a volume 1 as well, because this is the start of a new series. There's a bit of a prequel graphic novel that you could read before that, but if you want to know about that, let me know, and I will mention it. But you could start reading this from the beginning. Essentially, Shang-Chi has taken over the Ten Rings, the crime organisation, and he's trying to make them do good things, and all the Marvel Universe are essentially coming after him because they think he's become a bad guy. Batman Fear State. Now this is the last one by James Typhonian. I've really enjoyed his stuff so far. The Joker War was a bit naff, I'm not going to lie, but you know, it's good. It's a Batman story. I love it. Why not? If you want to see the thoughts that I have for the rest of the series, I will link Dark Designs up here. And then more Batman Detective by Tom Taylor. Tom Taylor is another author at the moment I absolutely love reading. It looks like this is much more of a Batman Incorporated story with Batman in London, but hopefully it's not too goofy and it's a bit more serious. I know Tom Taylor is great at everything he does. There has not been a story with him that I have not enjoyed, so definitely interested in reading that. Of course, buying all these graphic novels, I'm interested in reading all of them, but sometimes when you're talking about stuff, you lose it a little bit. And then following on from that, we have Harlequin. I did not like Amanda Connor's series. I hated it. Sam Humphrey's stuff was pretty solid. This is more of Harlequin in the Bat family. I don't like the art. It's really ugly. But I enjoy Harlequin, so yeah. It was Man and the Authority. What can I say about this? This is like a more mature Superman who's been in the universe for a long time. His powers aren't quite what they were, so he's building a team to take over from him. I love Grant Morrison's stuff. I know I keep saying that with all the authors that are here, but DC's authors at the moment are knocking it out of the park. My favourite female Spider-Man character. I absolutely love Silk. Yes, she's awesome. I completely forgot I bought this. Boba Fett. I actually really enjoyed the show. I thought it was great until The Mandalorian popped in and ruined it. But this is solely based on Boba Fett. It's his stories in, I believe, Legends. So it's technically not canon, but I don't think any of the comic stuff is technically canon because Star Wars TV shows and movies are never going to reference them, let's be honest. But it's Boba Fett. It's going to be good. Probably with Daredevil, try and catch up on it. Suicide Squad. Future State Suicide Squad was unbelievably amazing. This, I think, is set in the same universe/era. It does collect the first 2 issues of Future State Suicide Squad, so I believe it continues from that story. But yeah, it's got Peacemaker. The Peacemaker show is awesome. If you haven't watched it, I would highly recommend it. The James Gunn movie was pretty decent, but I think the Peacemaker, the show, was awesome. I am a huge Green Lantern fan. I love all of the lanterns. Yes, even Guy Gardner. And this is a new one, so I know nothing about this one, apart from she has her own kind of sector and she is looking into it. I believe she's a lesbian as well. Not as important, but she was on the DC Pride cover, so I assume that's her sexuality. She looks cool. Hopefully it's a good read. Swamp Thing. This looks very, very grisly and horror-y, and it's not a black label, so I'm hoping it's as violent and twisted as their usual Swamp Things are. This is part of the part work I am reading, so this is Aquaman Rebirth. The Drowning, it's the finale, but being it's done as a separate graphic novel, I'm sure you could just read it by itself. Huge Black Manta fan. Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2. I don't generally like older comics, but I'm willing to give this one a try because people just hype it up and say it's the best thing ever. I'm hoping they're right and it doesn't bore the hell out of me, because older comics are wordy, they are directionless, and they just piss me off in general, to be honest, but hopefully it doesn't. X-Men by Jerry Duggan. The X-Men recently went through a reboot, so this is kind of the relaunch of that reboot. There is no reading you need to do beforehand. You just need to know that the X-Men now have their own little island called Krakoa, and they're essentially kind of immortal. Read the first issue of it, it was okay. Jerry Duggan's very hit and miss. I loved his Cable run, but his Deadpool was awful. So I'm hoping it's a bit more like Cable. Moon Knight is next up, and of course this is his new series, so if you want to get into reading Moon Knight, then this is probably where you should start. It looks like a very cool cover, and the back is also quite cool. And then Volume 2 of Spider-Man Beyond with Miles' new costume. I'm not too sure how I feel about Miles' new costume. I don't really like the way it looks. It doesn't really look as aesthetically pleasing, but I've seen some art that makes it look phenomenal. J. Scott Campbell's. Yeah. More of part work, if you aren't familiar with them, they're Hatchels. I don't know if they do stuff outside of the UK, but maybe DC are doing some reprints of these storylines anyway. This is Legends. This is various stories for various characters. No clue. Again, it's an older story, but it doesn't look too old. We have more Green Lantern. Now, I wasn't really a fan of Jeff Johns' Green Lantern as a whole. I started reading the first omnibus, and it was a complete and utter mess. There was no narrative direction whatsoever. Everything was just happening at once, and thankfully I have quite a good knowledge of the characters, so I kind of knew at that point what they were doing. But if you are trying to start reading it, I would not recommend starting on Jeff Johns' Green Lantern because it is a mess. When he did New 52, fantastic. That's a good starting point, but again, because this is sold as like a separate story, it should be good. I do like how and Sinestro's dynamic, and Jeff Johns is great at just dealing with it, essentially. Is there anything that you guys think I should be checking out at the moment? I know I've got quite a lot of comics to read at the moment, but if there is newer stuff that I'm unfamiliar with, or that I don't have, please feel free to recommend them. I will be leaving my Goodreads in the bottom, which is generally the site that I use for reviews and stuff like that, if you want to hear my thoughts about each of them after I read them. Alternatively, I do some reviews of graphic novels depending on what they are. So if you'd like me to review something, just mention it and I will do it. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!